Tonight's show is all about one story. And it is the story of the lottery. It's the story of constitutional reform. It's a story of green belts. It is the story of the right to roam. And I swear to God, I put my hand on my heart on this one, I never thought I would say these words. Please listen carefully to what Bob Monkhouse and Hugh Scully have to say.
Stoneleigh Abbey in Warwickshire was one of our finest country houses. Now, thanks to your lottery cash, it's being restored to its former days of glory. Here's Hugh Scully.
Well, I've seen countless fine properties during my many years' association with programmes about antiques, but I have to say I have never seen anything quite to match the sheer magnificence of Stoneleigh Abbey here in Warwickshire. And when you look at it, it's very easy to understand why they've turned it into a Grade 1 listed building. But the Abbey, which is said to be the model for Southerton in Jane Austen's novel Mansfield Park, was closed because of debts, and the trustees were forced to sell its furniture and stop even basic maintenance. But we're not here just to bring you the bad news. The good news is that the Heritage Lottery Fund has just awarded the Stoneleigh Abbey Preservation Trust a whopping £7.37 million, so saving the property from falling into an irreparable state of decay.
On several occasions over the last 6 years, we've been at our wits' end, and this lottery was the great breakthrough to save this wonderful place.
Stoneleigh Abbey, in this superb setting with its wonderful park and gardens, has obviously inspired many people, among them, of course, Jane Austen. And who knows, once the restoration is complete, it might inspire generations to come. But between now and then, there's a great deal of work to be done.
These are quotes that have come out from the official press releases. This one is from the National Heritage Funds. Demonstrates a real commitment to public access to parts of the Abbey, the gardens and the park. The next quote is from Chris Smith, the National Heritage Minister. This is what he says. To safeguard the future of an outstanding historic house and enable far more people to visit and enjoy it. That is the official line. And every word of it is shit. And I'm going to prove why that is the case to you now. You get a lottery grant of £7.37 million. I want you to see what access you get for this. This is Stoneleigh Abbey. This is where the money's going. Now, what you do get access to is round here. In the bottom bit here, this is the West Wing. You get to visit 5 state rooms. You do not have a right to access to the top 2 floors. The bit here, this is called the Long Gallery. This is the bit where you get to visit for 12 days of the year. A whole 12 days. We get a chance to see it. And you have to book a year in advance. So quite reasonable access, I'm sure you'll agree. Now this bit here, this is a Jacobean house. This is a major national asset. This is stuff that has got leather wall hangings from the 17th century. It's got the works in there. And you will not be allowed in there. Now that is a major national loss. Now I seriously don't know how many Jacobean house lovers there are in Great Britain. I really haven't had time to do the survey. But we managed to rustle up a coachload. It should be a really, really good day. It should be an interesting day. We're going to go up here, which is the Jacobean house. We're going to try and persuade them if we can have one final look, because we really love Jacobean houses and we want to wave goodbye to the Jacobean house if we can't get in. Off we go. Come on. Here it is, you can see it from here. There is one tiny fact that none of the PR people have mentioned so far, and that's an incy-tinsy-wincy tiny little fact that people seem to have forgotten to mention. And that is that what you are seeing there is a private property development. And the thing is, if you wanted to get the developers to admit what they thought the public access would be, you would have to go to ridiculous and extreme lengths. Like dyeing your hair, hiring a Mercedes for the day and posing as property buyers.
Yeah, we came in with my wife and kids and all that, and wake up on a Sunday morning, and we suddenly got how many tracksuits wandering through.
I don't think there are going to be huge numbers of people, only because really I can't quite see what Apart from walking in the park, what the major attraction is going to be, particularly.
Right.
Yeah, is it the 5-state rooms, presumably?
Yeah, they're sort of.
I mean, how attractive are they?
Well, they're not that interesting, really.
This is the National Lottery Fund, and they describe it as a fascinating part of our history is opened up for all to enjoy.
On a certain number of days a year, they're allowed to come accompanied by arrangement, so that it'll say, for example, on every Thursday afternoon, a group can walk into this space and into that courtyard, look at it, and walk out again, accompanied.
So it's very limited public access.
The public access into this space is extremely limited.
This is Tony Banks. He's the Minister for Built Heritage. Most people think he's just a twat who moans on about football, but he's also in charge of the Built Heritage. And this is what he said. The money is going to be used to preserve the Abbey and its estates for the benefit of the public.
There's no way that going for a walk in the house is going to be like going to Woburn or something, because you've only literally got 5 furnished rooms. So it's not...
So it's going to be, the people who are going to come around are going to be local people.
They're going to be, well, they're going to be all spotted bow ties, aren't they?
Then we have the Stoneleigh Trust. This is what these say. An asset to the community to provide an important amenity for centuries to come.
It's like living in a village here, where at one end of the village you've got, a little museum and an area of parkland which is open to the public. And that's how I see it.
We're all in favour, I think, of restoring the Abbey. That's got to be restored. But when you see the access that's available to the public at such tremendous expense, £10.5 million, it's working out, in my view, at something like £1 million a room. I question whether that's good value for money.
£1 million a room. So, we're not getting good access for money here. There is a scheme called the Conditionally Exempt Land and Building Scheme. This is whereby if you inherit land and buildings, you put it on this scheme and you do not pay inheritance tax. The gig is, though, if your land and buildings go on that scheme, you must let the public have reasonable access. That's the deal. Stoneleigh Abbey has been conditionally exempt for years. We have already paid for a right to access. We've paid. Then the lottery very kindly pop up and say, hey, if you pay again, you can come in. And no one's saying, we've given already, thanks.
I don't think many members were aware of this conditional exemption. All I know is that I've been on the planning committee for many years and I didn't know about it, and I'm not aware of any members that did.
So, not all the stories coming out here. I know some of you are saying, what's the gig here, Mark? How did it happen? This is the story of how it occurred. As with many instances of the aristocracy, it starts with hereditary stuff. Old Lord Lee dies. Little Lord Lee inherits. Little Lord Lee inherits a trust. The trust then make the land and buildings conditionally exempt. Little Lord Lee should open the land and buildings up to the public. Little Lord Lee can't afford to do that. Little Lord Lee's in difficulties. At this point, logic dictates that Little Lord Lee should put his hands up and say, I can't do this job very well, therefore I should sell this off and pay the inheritance tax from the proceeds of the sale. Logic is not Little Lord Lee's strong suit. In the world of logic, Little Lord Lee really is the rabbit caught in the glare of the headlamps. You don't believe me? This is what Little Lord Lee said to the national press. I'm a better £7 million lottery bet than gays, says defiant peer.
There's nobody here at the moment, only my dog. If you'd like to leave your name and number, we will endeavour to call you back as soon as we can. Thank you.
Well, he's breaking every preconception I've got.
This is what happens. The trust cannot afford to run the place. They can't afford to open it up. They should bail out. So what do? They try and turn the top 2 floors into an office development. Would it surprise you if I then said the office development failed? So the office development's failed, and this is where it starts to get weird, because you actually look at the Stoneleigh Abbey Preservation Trust mission statement. This is what they're set up to do. To preserve as national monuments, you've got for the benefit of the nation, encourage access, advance public historical and aesthetic education. It doesn't mention try and build an office block. They then start to get into financial difficulties. They then start to run up debts. The interesting thing is when you look at who they owe money to. I want to show you who they owe the money to. They owe money to first trustee Lord Lee. They own £250,000. So the charitable trust that Lord Lee is a trustee of owes him £250,000. Second, trustee Farnsworth. He's on the trust as well. He's also Lord Lee's land agent. They owe him £160,000. This is Richard Moyes. He's the solicitor for Lord Lee. He is owed £440,000. Can anyone see a pattern emerging yet? Knight Frank. These are estate agents. They owe $212,000. The bank, they own that. Now, they are paying themselves money and getting the charity into debt. They are driving the thing into the ground through paying themselves. The debts they have now run up amount to a total of £2.5 million. At this point, logic, not the strong suit, but 2.5 million should knock very loudly. At this point, they should hold up their hands and go, we've fucked up big time. What we need to do is sell the house, get rid of it, pay the tax back. The creditors will just go, fuck it, we're the trustees, we're the creditors, doesn't matter, we'll have to take it on the chin. The bank foreclose on the whole thing. Everyone gets their money back, apart from the creditors, who are the trustees. And then what happens is, because it's a Grade 1 listed building, the council are going to protect its fabric and well-being so far, probably negotiate a public access agreement, and not one penny of public money is used. That doesn't happen. This is what happens next. The lottery come in and give
a whopping £7.37 million.
Where is that money going to go? Well, 2.5 million of it, some of you may be slightly ahead of me at this stage, £2.5 million goes to paying off the debts that was run up by the people who run the charity by paying themselves the money. Lord Lee gets his £250,000.
Hello?
Hello, Lord Lee. It's Mark Thomas. I wonder if I could have a quick word, please.
Sorry, not interested.
I'm sorry, can we talk to you?
This is a quote from the National Lottery Fund. And their money should be spent on providing projects which promote the public good, including the widening of public access, or charitable purposes, which are not intended primarily for private gain. £1.75 million is used to repair the roof and the walls of the West Wing. That's where the 5 state rooms are that we can visit. Remember, we can't visit the top 2 floors, even though there's some quite interesting stuff there.
What is that?
It is Queen
It's a-
Victoria's bathroom.
Is it?
That is her bath. Yeah.
That's it?
That is it.
Is there any kind of public access requirement to Queen
This
Victoria's?
flat,
Yeah.
no.
There
Yeah.
No.
So no one's going to say,
No.
I want to see Queen Victoria's
No.
bath.
No, well, we won't be allowed.
Right, okay.
You can't get in to see Queen Victoria's bath because they're the flats being sold for private gain. They're privately owned flats to be. Privately owned flats that are obviously benefiting from a £1.75 million roof. We asked the developer, a guy called Kit Martin, we said, are you chipping in for the cost of the roof? And he said, no. So we asked the National Lottery, he said, what's the score? Do the private buyers, do they benefit from the public money going into the roof? They said, no, they don't. Any benefit to the private buyers from the public funds going on the roof is incidental. Now, I'm really sorry, but I really don't see how a roof can be incidental. The Department of Heritage, they said the cost of the roof to be done up would be taken into account when the developer bought the lease, a 125-year lease, and it would be reflected in the price of that lease. We tried to find out how much the developer, Kit Martin, paid for that lease. The money that is quoted in the company reports is £1. £1 for a lease. £1. That's how much we think he paid for the lease. £1, which is an incidental sum of money.
But I suppose we could deduce some favour, I suppose, from just having all that work done in the West Wing.
Good, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I want you to hear that again. This is the point when he is asked whether he is aware that he is receiving some public favour for a private development, and he replies...
Good, isn't it?
Absolutely. Don't bloody knock it, Peter.
62, check choke.
This is what the lottery have said. The only way you can save the Abbey is doing this development. We asked Kit Martin, we said to him, how much profit, private profit, are you going to make from this deal? And he said, I don't know. Now you have to estimate how much profit you think you're going to get. This is multi-million pound development here. And you've got to work out roughly how much profit you think you're going to make on it. You've got to have a business plan. If he doesn't know how much profit he's going to make, it could all fall to rack and ruin. He might not sell a single one. They might go fucking bankrupt. 10 years from now, we might be seeing Hugh Scully wandering round the national fucking lottery programme going, well, here we are again at Stoneleigh Abbey. I'm afraid it's all gone pear-shaped, and goodness knows, we've paid for it a couple of times. We've spunked the money all up the wall. We've pasted it all. It's all gone on private property. I haven't got a new coat out of it, but fuck it. I did get Karen Smiley's telephone number, and that's something. That's what we could be seeing in 10 fucking years' time. This is the thing. We made some calculations and tried to guess how much money Kit Martin was going to make profit on this deal. And this is a guesstimate. But we guess he's going to make somewhere in the region of £5 million profit. That is 2/3 the value of the award given by the National Lottery. Now, what I've told you isn't even the half of it. I haven't mentioned the fact that they're developing on Greenbelt land. We haven't mentioned that the National Lottery put pressure on the local council to grant permission to develop on the Greenbelt land because of the connection with the deals.
It was intimated to us by the lottery that this was going to be the only way the lottery would be prepared to fund it if we were prepared to be, shall we say, flexible in planning.
We haven't even begun to mention the fact that there's a group called SAVE, who are a campaigning group who preserve heritage. They remain completely silent on this issue, despite the president, a guy called Marcus Binney, he's on record as saying this about our experience of enabling development is pretty universally bad. What you see is their red brick executive home set out in a suburban cul-de-sac peeking over the wall of the garden. That's fairly damning, isn't it? And yet he says nothing about the Stoneleigh Abbey development, possibly because he's on the trust of Stoneleigh Abbey. We haven't even begun to mention the fact that Stoneleigh Abbey has received 4 English heritage grants. That's a government-funded body. That's taxpayers' money. That's our money. They've received 4 grants. And the 5th one which they receive is worth £1.5 million. We haven't mentioned the fact that each grant comes with an access agreement to it. We haven't begun to mention the fact that they've actually got an EU grant worth £1.5 million. That comes to a £10.5 million public award when you tot it all up. We haven't even begun to mention all the other stuff going on, the fact that this lovely preserved country home is going to involve developing parking bays and swimming pools and privately walled gardens and shit like this. This is the Jacobean house. There'll be no access to any of this. Jacobean house in particular, you won't be able to see that. The lines down here, this is going to be where the walled gardens are, because these are going to be gardens for the house owners. This is the £1.5 million roof. How many people think that that is an incidental roof? Oh, I think this is where the wallpaper is. I really do. I think there it is. You can see it.
Excuse me.
Hello there.
Oh, sorry.
How are you?
Who's in charge, please?
Hiya. Pleased to meet you. I'm Mark. How are you?
I'm Andy Jones. I'm the
Hiya,
site
Andy.
manager.
Excellent. Pleased to meet you. I'm Mark from Channel 4. We've come to see the Jacobean house,
Well,
if that's possible. Oh, because
really
we're big
need-
fans. Seriously, there's all sorts of... All of us here are big fans of Jacobean houses.
I'm sorry, you're not
Is it-
allowed.
is it
on site.
possible to
Could
talk
I
to
ask
her?
you if you'd all leave?
Yeah, certainly. I'll sort that out.
Now.
But could you... Yeah, we'll do that. But is it possible that I
Could
could
I
talk
ask you
to
if you come back to
Philippa?
my office? I will.
Well, where's
Sorry.
your office? That would be lovely.
My office is out over there.
OK, well, that's great. We'll all go there then. We'll all go to your office. I think we've got a couple of stragglers. Could you hold on just 1 minute and I'll go and grab them? If you wait just a sec, I'll just go and grab them.
You can put that bastard off. One
of the big questions has got to be, how the fuck did it end up in this mess? How did it end up that a public award was going to pay for a private property development and people who got a trust into debt were then going to be bailed out of debt? How did that happen? Did these people know about it? Surely, right, the National Lottery Fund should have said, well, it is a bit amiss of us to pay, you know, £2.5 million of a charity's debts. We asked them about that and they said, talk to the National Audit Office. Now, we've cleared it with them. The National Audit Office said, we've cleared it with the National Lottery Fund. We thought they were looking into it. We said, well, did you know about that? And the National Lottery Fund then said, well, we checked with the Charity Commission. They then said, oh, are there debts? Now, we wrote to the Charity Commission, right, and they said, oh, we have been provided with a copy of the proposed voluntary arrangement, and it does appear that Lord Lee loaned SAPT 1 sums of money. They only know that because we gave them the information. We passed the stuff on to an independent auditor. Their report says, under company law, the accounts would normally give details of material transactions between the company and its director, but the accounts make no such disclosures. So basically what they're saying is, the accounts that the Charity Commission should have seen to check out didn't have the information that they should have had. So everyone's passing the buck. No one's taking responsibility for this. But throughout all of this, the one constant has been Lord Lee. So he wouldn't talk to us. We tried phoning him. We tried writing to him. He actually got someone to write back on his behalf. Possibly because he couldn't manage the letter himself. I'm not sure.
Did you receive over £300,000 from a National Lottery Award to pay off debts owed to you by charity you were already on? Did you receive that money, Lord Lee?
Can I ask you, what was those debts for?
The Preservation Trust received it.
No, did you receive money from the trust at all?
I didn't personally.
Did you sell land to the trust?
Stoneleigh Abbey Preservation Trust
Did you
received
sell
the
land
money.
to the trust?
Sorry?
Did you sell land to the trust?
No.
So what was it on the accounts? Because your solicitor says that you received money from SAPT 1. Your solicitor says that. Did you receive over £300,000 from SAPT 1?
Yes.
Can I ask you as well, the late Lord Lee received £47,000. That's down on the list of creditors to SAPT 1.
Yes.
That was a little odd, that paying the late Lord Lee that money.
I don't know what that was for. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Well, can I ask you then, Lord Lee, how did you said that it was better you received the money, the lottery grant, than gays or lesbians? Is that correct?
Yes.
Can I ask you then, why are gays and lesbians renowned for getting their charitable trust £2.5 million in debts?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, you got SAPT 1, you were a member of SAPT 1, and they got £2.5 million in debt, is that correct?
No, I don't know. I can't remember.
You were on the board of SAPT 1.
You see, Waverley, I don't know the exact figures. I'm not an accountant.
But you are responsible for it, you're a trustee.
I'm sorry, I can't.
8 miles from Stoneleigh is a hospice. This hospice applied for a lottery grant. The lottery grant, which came to less than half the total of the debts of the charitable trust that Lord Lee is on, that lottery grant would have kept the hospice open for 3 years. They didn't get that grant. We went up there and talked to them about what they felt about the lottery, what they felt about the hospice, what they felt about the lottery grant, what they felt about Stoneleigh.
I think they're looking at the wrong things. They haven't got their priorities correct. They should think about lives first and entertainment second. And they're not doing that. I think if they could just spare something for life-saving, it would be a great thing. It'll come to the stage where Myton Hospice might have to close down. It possibly will. And I feel extremely strongly, and so do a lot of other people, it's certainly life-saving, and we ought to save Myton Hospice.
The lottery can ask for profits that are made on developments to go back to the lottery. You might like to write to the lottery suggesting that they can put a halt to this development, they can insist on the money back. So write in. Just write in. Do your bit. Da, 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 da. Big group hug for the house. Yeah. Farewell, Jacobean house.